This is Lena. I head the academic engagement at SwissNext in India, the Swiss Science and Technology Consulate. And with me today here is Sarah Kenderdine, Professor for Digital Museology at EPFL in Lausanne, Switzerland. Sarah, this is not the first time you're in India, and you've actually done a lot of work in India and you keep coming back. So we wanted to know from you what brought you to India the first time and what makes you keep coming back.
Sure. The first time I came, it was a wonderful opportunity. It was an invitation by George Michel and John Fritz, architectural historian and archaeologist at the site of Hampi, the kingdom of Vijayaganara, in this state, in Karnataka state. So that was the first encounter with India, and it resolved into a work that was built on the site for France-India year in 2006. So my first trip here was 2005. That was very successful as a work for us. It was a glorious site. We're using very interesting technologies. The installation toured all over the world. It was originally in Lille, in France, and then I built a big exhibition about the archaeological imaginary of that site. So I was also working with John Gollings, who is the photographer often at Hampi, done some brilliant documentation work. So we put this all together into a big show. The big show was seen by Mrs. Jindal, and the Jindal Art Foundation sponsored the development of a new museum right next to the site itself. So finally it came to India, and that was 2012. And subsequently, or even before that, I did a wonderful work up in Nagaur Fort, together with Lady Helen Hamlin and the Maharaja of Jodhpur up in Nagaur. And this was apparently still running today, so I'm really delighted by that. And we did a temporary installation at the Prince of Wales Museum with the big long name, Indian name, and for a full dome. So we brought the 6-meter super high resolution full dome into the middle of the gallery under the 60-foot ceiling of the museum. It's a wonderful building and a neo-Gothic style architecture, and we were looking at ceilings throughout the city, 168 ceilings, algorithmically driven, and people were just lying down looking up. So these are wonderful works. And now we're working with IIT Jodhpur and an Indo-Swiss grant to document seminal Buddhist sculptures throughout India, and to create a small touring exhibition of these extraordinary works, to look at the blockchain, how we can protect the custodians of these objects in the digital world. So it's a lot to do with issues of repatriation and the translocated heritage that we have around the world, and how we protect custodians in that realm. It's not about the commercialization NFT world, right? And the other big project we've done here, of course, is the Atlas of Maritime Buddhism. And this is a spread of Buddhism from India through Southeast Asia, up into China, down into Korea and Japan. It's a touring exhibition and a permanent exhibition in Taiwan, and we hope to be able to now bring it to the birthplace of Buddhism, India.
Nice. That looks like there's still a lot of work in the future, and you will keep coming back. Talking about like using tech and art, or using tech or digital technologies to make your art more accessible. One, we wanted to understand like what started you off doing that, and then how do you actually work with it? Because you work like with collaborators' expertise. How do you actually realize your imagination?
Okay, so I was originally a maritime archaeologist, so I used to dig up shipwrecks, and archaeologists in general are very techy. And so we had side scan sonar. I was taught stereographics from when I was a student, mapping of sites under the water, and so on and so forth. So we're pretty teched up to start with. And then there was the advent of the internet and the sort of birth of digital technologies inside museums. And it was an obvious opportunity. And The way in which these works are created is hugely collaborative. We have numbers of engineers, different types of graphics people, hard coders, back-end software engineers who have to look after servers and computers and stuff. And then we need integrators who bring hardware together in unique configurations that we design. And all of those people are involved in every single work that we do. So it's hugely collaborative. We work a lot with other artists, so theater directors or even animation artists or graphic artists, choreographers, theater directors. So there's a whole spectrum of opportunities for collaboration in this work. Yeah.
And do you sort of like have a sort of quote unquote fixed team, or do you like look into the location? For example, if you come to India, you then like look at the local expertise, skills, or inspiration that's around here and bring them on board? How does it work?
Indeed, in India we worked with many local people. In fact, it is said that the first 3D animation ever done in India was for the place Humpy work. So it took a whole floor of computers to render out because it's very high resolution. And the wonderful graphics guy who was working on the project has gone on to be quite a superstar in the US. Mm-hmm. And it was with a gaming company, Paprika's gaming company. And we worked with Dr. L. Subramaniam, who's a Carnatic violin superstar here. So there are many local collaborations as well as a sort of heavy-duty tech. Yeah. In my laboratory currently, I had the terrifying statistic that there are now 23 people. I swore I'd stop at 10. So because the projects we're doing are really around cultural big data, increasingly massive moving image archives and things like this. So we need big servers, big compute, and a lot of machine learning and computer vision type technologies, which is why I'm at the wonderland of EPFL.
Yeah, that would have been like, I think, kind of my closing question already. How did you end up coming to EPFL, and how are you enjoying yourself over there?
Oh, I think I came because of the context of the engineering. Mm-hmm. Actually, turns out there's a very modest humanities school there.
Yes.
And the conditions on the lake, etc., very nice. The EPFL pavilions, wonderful mm-hmm. building. And then a dusty old warehouse down in Saint-Sulpice on the lake, 5 minutes walk from the lake, is where an old printing factory is where I have my laboratory. So it's fantastic, 1,500 square meters with 7-meter ceiling heights. It's everything anybody would want, a kind of playpen to be able to create these works.
Well, then as an outlook in the future, into the future, like looking at your past work, you've always been kind of pioneering, bringing like new developing technologies into the art space, or making it like experiential exhibitions. What is coming next? What's on your mind?
So we're working a lot in what we call future cinema systems, next generation cinematic experience, which is both social and interactive. So it's about the development of non-linear narrative, emergent narrative, co-evolving narrative systems. And of course, the back end of that is a lot to do with generative AI tools. So ChatGPT is a well-known one. We use a lot of text-to-image generator works, but we're making all of these installation spaces multi-user and highly social. So for us, that's a really important development, and the technologies are increasingly able to support it.
So in that way, I hear you that you don't perceive technologies like ChatGPT as a threat to like the cultural or art or imaginary world, but more as in you embrace it.
Yes, I mean, I am fully aware of the ethical issues of these systems, and so, but in that awareness, I think these are very powerful tools and we must engage with them. I even allow my students to use them. So I think that they are enabling a realm of creativity, which is really compelling.
Yeah.
And so long as we are very cogent of the challenges, we're not, and how we represent things. And the limited nature, they are very limited, these tools. We think they run the world these days, but they're not. They're very limited and circumscribed. And in fact, that's where the cultural sector, the GLAM sector, galleries, archives, libraries, museums, have an enormous role to play actually in the cultural big data and being able to define and feed into these systems, because they're all trained on, small image data sets or whatever. So once the cultural sector puts their data in there, then we're talking about a very different world.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of cultural big data. It's the next gen.
Yes, it does play an important role in all of your works.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming by this morning, and
Sure.
we look forward to seeing more of your work in India.
Absolutely. Looking forward to. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.